All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Give me five. You know, I chuckle, and at the same time I get kind of disgusted when I hear universal praise, universal love for Joe Biden as he ponders whether or not to throw his hat into the ring and run for the presidential nomination on the Democrat side. If Joe Biden were a Republican, and I say this with certainty, if Joe Biden were a Republican, he would be out of politics, living in shame somewhere, labeled a plagiarist and a racist. But because he's a Democrat, he's, oh, Joe, and it's not funny. And again, I don't think Joe Biden's a racist. I don't think he has a problem touching young women and women in general. He does that too, but we're putting that aside for now. But by the standards set by the liberals in this country and the standards set by the liberal media, Joe Biden would be a racist and would be out of politics if he were a Republican. Let me just give you a few examples. And again, I mentioned plagiarism. Nobody mentions that he got kicked out of the first presidential race in the 80s, 88, I think, because of plagiarism. He also had a plagiarism problem in school. Hey, let's ignore that. He's crazy Joe. Now, when he was running for president or about to run for president in 08, let's listen to the probably the most famous of all. This was Joe Biden talking about 7-Elevens and Dunkin' Donuts in Delaware.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. It's I'm not joking. Oh, gigantic. Gigantic. I met with a group.
Yeah, I'm not joking, you said. I'm not. Now, at the time, this caused a little bit of a stir. If this was Donald Trump, if this was Ted Cruz, if this was any Republican, not only from this field, any other field, bye-bye, racist. No, doesn't happen. It's Joe Biden. Now, if that were in and of itself all he had said and done, you might yawn and say, oh, what are you making a big deal about? But there was more, all in proximity, all around 07, 08 as he was running. Let's listen to this doozy as he comments on then Senator Barack Obama.
We got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
You got the first African American to run for president who's articulate and clean. I guess Carol Moseley Braun, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and right on down the list, they were inarticulate and dirty. Now, again, any Republican saying this about a black presidential candidate when there had been other black presidential candidates that went before him would be out. Don't forget Macaca. Macaca ruined George Allen's political career. What the heck does Macaca even mean? Now, this wasn't alone in a vacuum either. You got the Dunkin' Donuts 7-Eleven comment. You got Obama's the first clean, articulate African American to run for president. And then there's this. Let's put it up on the screen. He's giving an interview to the Washington Post editorial board, and he's explaining why schools in Iowa are performing better than those in Washington, D.C., and Biden told the Post, quote, there's less than 1% of the population in Iowa that's African American. There's probably less than 4 or 5% that are minorities. What's in Washington? So look, it goes back to what you start off with, what you are dealing with. Ladies and gentlemen, he's blaming the fact that education in D.C. stinks and is better in Iowa because you got white people in Iowa and you got black people in D.C. Now, this is 1, 2, 3. And what happens? Is he run out of politics? Is he called a racist? No. Obama, the first black presidential nominee, picks him to be the VP. And the gaffes only get worse and worse and worse and worse. He touches little girls. He touches women, puts his hands all over them, makes ridiculously crazy statements. And he's universally loved. He's respected. Everybody adores him. If he were a Republican, he'd be living in shame somewhere in parts unknown. Thanks for watching.